All right, everybody, this is Venus Brown. I am back with another reading of The Handmaid's Tale. We're going to be starting with chapter 13 and then moving into chapter 14. These are two fairly heavy chapters. We're going to be covering some stuff that might be a little heart-wrenching. I know every now and then I'll start to tear up a little bit, and I would expect that probably will happen this time. All right, I did manage to get my chat going. It took 2 posts. So if you see that on my chat box outside of my screen, that there's 2 exactly the same posts, that's why. The first one did not take, the second one did. And I got my coffee. It's all ready to go. I am later than I like to do this on Sundays. But I was having some problems with my little chapter pictures. So I will show you the first one. All right. Now, there's actually a lot of stuff that's going to happen in this chapter, and I wasn't sure exactly what picture I wanted to choose. I ended up using the shame one. It's just because there's other stuff that happens a little later in the chapter that's specifically about their escape, and I know that there will be a point, not necessarily in this book, but in the Testaments book, where that is going to come into play again, and I will probably present that picture whenever I start doing Testaments readings. Right now, we're doing Handmaid's Tale readings. There is stuff here from Janine explaining an awful thing that happens to her and then blaming her for it. The aunt's blaming her for it. There is a part where she finds out that Moira is in the Red Center. And there's the part where they're escaping. They're trying to escape. And it goes exactly opposite of what they hope for. Anyway, so let's see. Let's just, I guess, go ahead and get started. Okay. Oh yeah, and what I was saying, when I was trying to get my pictures ready this time, for some reason, when I went to export them, none of the sound was working. It just was a completely blank picture with no sound, and I try to have that audio track playing behind it fairly quietly, and for some reason that was not showing up. I don't know exactly what it was, but I ended up like going back and forth comparing one of the other ones that I had just done that worked fine. I think I had been using that project to do some still JPEGs for my thumbnails. And when I switched it back over to video from JPEGs, it was, it messed up some of my settings. So now I have it set up, but it took me quite a long time to get that all set up appropriately and get it working right. But it is now. Anyway, this part is one chapter. It is called Nap. And like I said, a lot happens in this chapter, and that is because she is resting, she is dreaming, she is remembering a lot of different things from different points. So lots of stuff happens. Chapter 13. There's time to spare. This is one of the things I wasn't prepared for. The amount of unfilled time. The long parentheses of nothing. Time as white sound. If only I could embroider, weave, knit, something to do with my hands. I want a cigarette. I remember walking in art galleries through the 19th century, the obsession they had with harems, dozens of paintings of harems, fat women lolling on divans, turbans on their heads, or velvet caps being fanned with peacock tails, a eunuch in the background standing guard, studies of sedentary flesh, painted by men who'd never been there. These pictures were supposed to be erotic, and I thought they were at the time. But I see now what they were really about. These were paintings about suspended animation, about waiting, about objects not in use. They were paintings about boredom. But my boredom is erotic when women do it. But maybe boredom is erotic when women do it for men. I wait, washed, brushed, fed, like a prized pig. Sometime in the 80s, they invented pig balls for pigs who were being fattened in pens. Pig balls were large colored balls. The pigs rolled them around with their snouts. The pig marketers said this improved their muscle tone. The pigs were curious. They liked to have something to think about. I read about that in Introduction to Psychology. That and the chapter on caged rats who'd give themselves a... Hold on. I have a call from my husband. Let me put this on the be right back screen. Hello?
Hello. Would you like a tour of the room?
I'm coming back. Sorry about that. My husband called. He was just he just got on the airplane this morning to go to California. Let me get back to, I'll go here. Okay. So he just went, he's going on a work trip to California. Sometimes I go with him on those because I like California. Traffic's not great, but he's actually in a rural area, so the traffic is no problem at all. But we're going to be going to California again in the spring, and this was like a spur of the moment. He had to take the place of, I think, his boss. So, anyway, sorry about the interruption, but I figured I better take it and I better exit stage left so that y'all don't hear everything. Although I will tell you about the one story he told me after he showed me his room and everything. That he went to breakfast and there was this old couple talking about their church, and they were proceeding to complain about how their church is against LGBTQ people, and they keep accusing Trump and everybody of all these things because they're so anti-LGBTQ. And I'm like, seriously, I would have turned, like, I know myself, I will hold my tongue for a lot of things, but that is something I definitely would turn around and be like, I was under the impression that the Bible tells you, your God tells you to judge not lest ye be judged, to love your neighbors as yourself, to love your enemies. Like, where is that in these things that you're complaining about? Because seriously, y'all are doing a great job of pushing the very people away that you claim to need to bring into your folds. And then you wonder why people are not so happy with the church, with religion, with religious people. Like, come on. There is no fucking reason whatsoever, pardon my language, no reason whatsoever to treat other people like that. There are plenty of freaking laws and rules and commands in the Bible that tell you that you're not supposed to do this and you're not supposed to do that, that tell you that you're going to be judged as sinful and all of that. Plenty of them. And I do not hear anybody complaining about divorced people. You're not like telling divorced people that they're sinful people and they're going to go to hell. They're going to burn in hell. Like, that's the kind of stuff that needs to be, like, seriously. Your very Bible says not to judge others lest ye be judged. And you, like, pick these handful of things to be self-righteous about and act like you need to judge them as the most sinful, horrible people on the face of the earth. Yet there's all this other stuff that is right there in the 10 Commandments that you claim you're supposed to follow. And LGBTQ stuff is nowhere in the 10 Commandments. It's not. There's a reason for that. Because in the first place, it wasn't really a thing. In the second place, it's not your fucking business. It isn't your fucking business. And God never fucking told you, nor did Jesus ever tell you, nor did anything in the Bible ever tell you that you have to freaking treat other people that you don't agree with like dirt. That's not the message. Not the message that I ever got. Oh, we'll get to read a little bit about some of this. And I think it's this chapter, but it might be next chapter. And I'll say a little bit that I have to say about the weird hypocrisy and the weird kind of juxtaposition that exists in The Handmaid's Tale in Gilead. But anyway, let's see. I need to find where I left off because I don't believe I got very far. Okay, I'll start with the last the last decent length paragraph. I read about that in Introduction to Psychology. That and the chapter on caged rats who'd give themselves electric shocks for something to do. And the one on the pigeons trained to peck a button which made a grain of corn appear. 3 groups of them. The first one got 1 grain per peck. The second 1 grain every other peck. And the third was random. When the man in charge cut off the grain, the first group gave up quite soon. The second, a little later. The third group never gave up. They'd peck themselves to death rather than quit. Who knew what worked? I wish I had a pig ball. So that whole issue of having all this off time with nothing to do. And they're so regimented. And they're so just extreme in their regulations that you really have nothing to do. You're trying to fill all this time with lots of nothing. So what does she do? She takes a nap, which is something that they suggested is a good option for them anyway. I lie down. Oh, I need to get back to the reading section. I lie down on the braided rug. You can always practice, said Aunt Lydia. Several sessions a day, fitted into your daily routine. Arms at the sides, knees bent. Lift the pelvis, roll the backbone down. Tuck again. Breathe into the count of 5. Hold. Expel. We do that in what used to be the domestic science room, cleared now of sewing machines and washer and dryers, in unison, lying on little Japanese mats. A tape playing, Les Fides. Don't know if that's right, but whatever. That's what I hear now in my head as I lift, tilt, breathe. Behind my closed eyes, thin white dancers flit gracefully among the trees, their legs fluttering like the wings of held birds. In the afternoons, we lay on our beds for an hour in the gymnasium, between 3 and 4. They said it was a period of rest and meditation. I thought then they did it because they wanted some time off themselves from teaching us. And I know the aunts not on duty went off to the teacher's room for a cup of coffee. Or whatever they called by that name. But now I think that rest also was practice. They were giving us a chance to get used to blank time. A catnap, Aunt Lydia called it, in her coy way. The strange thing is we needed a rest. Many of us went to sleep. We were tired there a lot of the time. We were on some kind of pill or drug, I think. They put it in the food to keep us calm. But maybe not. Maybe it was the place itself. After that first shock, after you'd come to terms, it was better to be lethargic. You could tell yourself you were saving up your strength. I must have been there for 3 weeks when Moira came. She was brought into the gymnasium by 2 of the aunts, in the usual way, while we were having our nap. She still had her clothes on, jeans and a blue sweatshirt. Her hair was short. She defied fashion as usual, so I recognized her at once. She saw me too, but she turned away. She already knew what was safe. There was a bruise on her left cheek, turning purple. The aunts took her to a vacant bed where the red dress was already laid out. She undressed, began to dress again in silence. The aunts standing at the end of the bed, the rest of us watching from inside our slitted eyes. As she bent over, I could see the knobs on her spine. So one of the things about this is a bit of a juxtaposition to what they show in the TV show. In the TV show, it's Moira is already there. They are in a classroom. She is in handmaid's clothing already, and June comes in, having just been captured, still in her jeans and blue shirt. And that was the classroom rather than the gymnasium. I couldn't talk to her for several days. We looked only, small glances, like sips. Friendships were suspicious. We knew it. We avoided each other during the mealtime lineups in the cafeteria and in the halls between classes. But on the fourth day, she was beside me during the walk, 2 by 2 around the football field. We weren't given the white wings until we graduated. And this made me think about when I was in the military and we went to AIT, or basic training, and then AIT. And like, the graduation is a big deal, and it means that, like, before graduation, you're on all these restrictions. There's a lot of things you can't do. Your private belongings have mostly been taken from you. They have been locked away. And all you have is the standard issue military uniforms. Underwear and socks I always had a problem with, but I think for me, I had to go to the PX to get packs of underwear. I remember my cousin thought that girls would get they would get assigned underwear, like you would actually sign for them and get government issued underwear, and he thought they'd have like brown or green underwear, and I'm like, no. The underwear are not assigned. You go and frickin' buy your own pack of underwear, or possibly have some with you. But I do remember that I did not have enough underwear or socks, and I also remembered that people kept stealing shit out of the laundry room. So I was constantly running out of underwear and socks. I had to have my mom send me some after a while because I didn't have any more money left in my account. Anyway, the things that I remember, but the idea that in this graduation, rather than getting some privileges reassigned and getting some of your normal stuff back like we did in basic and AIT, instead you're getting white wings that cover your face and hide you from the rest of society, and a fucking ceremony that forces you to be raped every month and all this other, like horrible. Anyway, we weren't given the white wings until we graduated. We had only the veils, so we could talk as long as we did it quietly and didn't turn to look at one another. The aunts walked at the head of the line at the end, so the only danger was from the others. Some were believers and might report us. "This is a loony bin," Moira said. "I'm so glad to see you," I said. "Where can we talk?" said Moira. "Washroom," I said. "Watch the clock. End stall 2:30. That was all we said. Oh, excuse me. Oh boy. All right. Let's get back to it. It makes me feel safer that Moira is here. We can go to the washroom if we put our hands up. Though there's a limit to how many times a day. They mark it down on a chart. I watch the clock, electric and round. At the front over the green blackboard, 2:30 comes during testifying. Aunt Helena is here as well as Aunt Lydia, because testifying is special. Aunt Helena is fat. She once had a Weight Watchers franchise operation in Iowa. She's good at testifying. It's Janine. telling about how she was gang raped at 14 and had an abortion. She told the same story last week. She seemed almost proud of it while she was telling. It may not even be true. At testifying, it's safer to make things up than to say you have nothing to reveal. But since it's Janine, it's probably more or less true. But whose fault was it? Aunt Helena says, holding up one plump finger. Her fault, her fault, her fault, we chant in unison. She did, she did. No. Who led them on? Aunt Helena beams, pleased with us. She did, she did, she did. Why did God allow such terrible things to happen? Teach her a lesson, teach her a lesson, teach her a lesson. Last week, Janine burst into tears. Aunt Helena made her kneel at the front of the classroom, hands behind her back, where we could all see her red face and dripping nose. Her hair dull blonde, her eyelashes so light they seemed not there. The lost eyelashes of someone who's been in a fire. Burned eyes. She looked disgusting. Weak, squirmy, blotchy, pink, like a newborn mouse. None of us wanted to look like that. Ever. For a moment, even though we knew what was being done to her, we despised her. Cry baby, cry baby, cry baby. We meant it, which was the bad part. I used to think well of myself. I didn't then. That was the last week. This week, Janine doesn't wait for us to... That was last week. This week, Janine doesn't wait for us to jeer at her. It was my fault, she said. It was my own fault. I led them on. I deserved the pain. Very good, Janine, says Aunt Lydia. You are an example. I have to wait until this is over before I put up my hand. Sometimes, if you ask at the wrong moment, they say no. If you really have to go, that can be crucial. Yesterday, Dolores wet the floor. Two aunts hauled her away, a hand under each armpit. She wasn't there for the afternoon walk. But at night, she was back in her usual bed. All night, we could hear her moaning off and on. And there's other little changes in here compared to the book. In the book, Janine is a blonde-haired girl. On the show, she has red hair. But it's fucking completely fucked up. You make these girls testify, you make them feel bad if they have nothing to testify, and then when they do testify, you shun them and blame them for their testimony for something that they have no freaking control over. A person raping you, several people raping you, is not something that you can control, that you do anything to freaking contribute to. There are a variety of ways you could respond to the situation, but inevitably you have no real control over that happening to you. Only how you react to it. And that is just so fucking disgusting and appalling. So disgusting. Okay, so the girl had to go to the bathroom and she accidentally wet on the floor, so they fucking pull her away, and the next night you hear her all night moaning. What did they do to her? We whispered from bed to bed. I don't know. Not knowing makes it worse. I raised my hand. Aunt Lydia nods. I stand up and walk into the hall, as inconspicuous as possible. Outside the washroom, Aunt Elizabeth is standing guard. She nods, signaling that I can go in. This washroom used to be for boys. The mirrors have been replaced here too by oblongs of dull gray metal. But the urinals are still there on one wall, white enamel with yellow stains. They look oddly like babies' coffins. I marvel again at the nakedness of men's lives. The showers right out in the open, the body exposed for inspection and comparison, the public display of privates. What is it for? What purposes of reassurance does it serve? The flashing of a badge. Look, everyone, all is in order. I belong here. Why don't women have to prove to one another that they are women? Some form of unbuttoning, some split crotch routine, just as casual, a dog-like sniffing. The high school is old. The stalls are wooden, some kind of chipboard. I go into the second one from the end, swing the door to. Of course, there are no longer any locks. In the wood, there's a small hole at the back, next to the wall, about waist high. Souvenir from some previous vandalism or legacy of an ancient voyeur. Everyone in the center knows about this hole in the wall. Everyone except the ants. I'm afraid I'm too late, held up by Janine's testifying. Maybe Moira has been here already. Maybe she's had to go back. They don't give you much time. I look carefully down, aslant under the stall wall, and there are 2 red shoes. But how can I tell who it is? I put my mouth to the wooden hole. Moira, I whisper. Is that you? She says. Yes, I say. Relief goes through me. God, do I need a cigarette, says Moira. Me too, I say. I feel ridiculously happy. I sink down into my... Oh, no, this is a different scenario. So she's going from one thing to another. I sink down into my body as into a swamp, fenland, where only I know the footing. Treacherous ground, my own territory. I become the earth. I set my ear against for rumors of the future. Each twinge, each murmur of slight pain, ripples of sloughed off matter, swellings and diminishings of tissue, the droolings of the flesh. These are signs. These are the things I need to know about. Each month I watch for blood, fearfully, for when it comes, it means failure. I have failed once again to fulfill the expectation of others, which have become my own. I used to think of my body as an instrument of pleasure, or a means of transportation, or an implement for the accomplishment of my will. I could use it to run, push buttons of one sort or another, make things happen. There were limits, but my body was nevertheless lithe, single, solid, one with me. Now the flesh arranges itself differently. I'm a cloud, congealed around a central object, the shape of a pear, which is hard and more real than I am, and glows red within its translucent wrapping. Inside it is a space, huge as the sky at night, and dark and curved like that. Though black-red rather than black, Pinpoints of light swell, sparkle, burst and shrivel within it, countless as stars. Every month there is a moon, gigantic, round, heavy, an omen. It transits, pauses, continues on, and passes out of sight, and I see despair coming towards me like famine. To feel that empty again and again. I listen to my heart, wave upon wave, salty and red, continuing on and on, marking time. I'm in our first apartment, in the bedroom. I'm standing in front of the cupboard, which has folding doors made of wood. Around me, I know it's empty. All the furniture is gone. The floors are bare, no carpets even. But despite this, the cupboard is full of clothes. I think they're my clothes, but they don't look like mine. I've never seen them before. Maybe they're clothes belonging to Luke's wife, whom I've never seen. Only pictures and a voice on the phone late at night when she was calling us, crying, accusing before the divorce. But no, they're my clothes all right. I need a dress. I need something to wear. I pull out dresses. Black, blue, purple, jackets, skirts. None of them will do. None of them even fits. They're too big or too small. Luke is there behind me. I turn to see him. He won't look at me. He looks down at the floor where the cat is rubbing itself against his legs, mewing and mewing plaintively. It wants food. But how can there be any food with the apartment so empty? Luke, I say. He doesn't answer. Maybe he doesn't hear me. It occurs to me he may not be alive. I'm running with her, holding her hand. Pulling, dragging her through the bracken. She's only half awake because the pill I gave her, so she wouldn't cry or say anything that would give us away. She doesn't know where she is. The ground is uneven, rocks, dead branches, the smell of damp earth, old leaves. She can't run fast enough. By myself I could run faster. I'm a good runner. Now she's crying. She's frightened. I want to carry her, but she would be too heavy. I have my hiking boots on, and I think, when we reach the water, I'll have to kick them off. Will it be too cold? Will she be able to swim that far? What about the current? We weren't expecting this. Quiet, I say to her angrily. I think about her drowning, and this thought slows me. Then the shots come behind us. Not loud, not like firecrackers, but sharp and crisp, like a dry branch snapping. It sounds wrong. Nothing ever sounds the way you think it will. And I hear the voice, "Down!" Is it a real voice, or a voice inside my head, or my own voice out loud? That would be her saying, "Down!" Is it a real voice, or a voice inside my head, or my own voice out loud? I pull her to the ground and roll on top of her to cover her. Shield her. Quiet, I say again. My face is wet, sweat or tears. I feel calm and floating, as if I'm no longer in my body. Close to my eyes, there's a leaf, red, turned early. I can see every bright vein. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. I ease off. I don't want to smother her. Instead, I curl myself around her, keeping my hand over her mouth. There's a breath in the knocking of my heart, like pounding at the door of a house at night. Where you thought you would be safe. It's all right, I'm here, I say, I whisper. Please be quiet. But how can she? She's too young. It's too late. We come apart. My arms are held and the edges go dark and nothing is left but a little window. A very little window, like the wrong end of a telescope. Like the window on a Christmas card, an old one. Night and ice outside, and within a candle, a shining tree, a family. I can hear the bells even, sleigh bells from the radio, old music. But through this window, I can see small but very clear. I can see her going away from me through the trees, which are already turning red and yellow, holding out her arms to me, being carried away. The bell wakes me, and then Cora knocking at my door. I sit up on the rug, wipe my wet face with my sleeve. Of all the dreams, this is the worst. Oh my God. I hate that part. Oh my God. Now, I'm going to say something that if you have not read Testaments, it's going to be a spoiler, sort of. It'll be a spoiler, but oh my God. And I'm assuming that anybody who's really watching this probably has either read the book or watched the show or both. So a lot of that stuff I would expect you to already know a pretty hefty amount about. But not everybody reads Testaments. Not everybody read Testaments. Not everybody's going to be watching the show when it comes out. I will be reacting to it. But anyway, there is very, very little that June's daughter remembers. In Testaments, June's daughter is going to be a main character. And the one thing that she remembers is little glimpses, little bits and pieces from this scenario. She doesn't remember what's happening. She doesn't remember exactly what's going on. And it's all like intertwined with stories that she's been told by her mother. And her mother wasn't completely dishonest. She just tried to soften the story. But it's this scenario. It's this scene. So it's like even more heart-wrenching reading it than when seeing it on the TV show. All right, so now we're on part 6, household. Let me go ahead and get the next image up for chapter 14. Okay, so you saw that is the sitting room that they all go to for the ceremony. That's like the beginning of the ceremony. They all go to the sitting room at their own given times. Fred is like the last person to show up, and that is the part of the ceremony that occurs before the raping. And I will just call it raping because that's what it is. You can try to candy coat it any way you want to, as a ceremony, as some fucking biblical thing. It is rape. It is forced servitude, forced indenturement, and rape. Slavery. All right. Let's see. Go to here. Okay. Chapter 14. When the bell has finished, I descend the stairs. A brief waif in the eye of the glass that hangs on the downstairs wall. The clock ticks with its pendulum, keeping time. My feet in their neat red shoes count the way down. The sitting room door is wide open. I go in. So far, no one else is here. I don't sit, but take my place, kneeling near the chair with the footstool where Serena Joy will shortly enthrone herself, leaning on her cane while she lowers herself down. Possibly she'll put a hand on my shoulder to steady herself, as if I'm a piece of furniture. She's done it before. The sitting room would once have been called a drawing room, perhaps, then a living room. Or maybe it's a parlor, the kind with a spider and flies. But now it's officially a sitting room, because that's what is done in it, by some. For others, there's standing room only. The posture of the body is important here and now. Minor discomforts are instructive. That's weird. So sometimes I get these notices and the image from them will just stay on until I look at them. But this time they did not stay there. So I was like, what was that notice for? Okay. The sitting room is subdued, symmetrical. It's one of the shapes money takes when it freezes. Money has trickled through this room for years and years, as if through an underground cavern, crusting and hardening like stalactites into these forms. Mutely, the varied surfaces present themselves. The dusk rose velvet of the drawn drapes, the gloss of the matching chairs, 18th century, the cow's tongue hush of the tufted Chinese rug on the floor, with its peach-pink peonies, the suave leather of the commander's chair, the glint of brass on the box beside it. The rug is authentic. Some things in this room are authentic. Some are not. For instance, 2 paintings, both of women, one on either side of the fireplace. Both wear dark dresses, like the ones in the old church, though of a later date. The paintings are possibly authentic. I suspect that when Serena Joy acquired them, after it became obvious to her that she'd have to redirect her energies into something convincingly domestic, she had the intention of passing them off as ancestors. Or maybe they were in the house when the commander bought it. There's no way of knowing such things. In any case, there they hang, their backs and mouths stiff, their breasts constricted, their faces pinched, their caps starched, their skin grayish white, guarding the room with their narrowed eyes. Between them, over the mantel, there's an oval mirror, flanked by 2 pairs of silver candlesticks, with a white china Cupid centered between them, its arm around the neck of a lamb. The tastes of Serena Joy are a strange blend. Hard lust for quality, soft sentimental cravings. There's a dried flower arrangement on either end of the mantelpiece, and a vase of real daffodils on the polished marquetry and table beside the sofa. The room smells of lemon oil, heavy cloth, fading daffodils, the leftover smells of cooking that have made their way from the kitchen or the dining room, and of Serena Joy's perfume, lily of the valley. Perfume is a luxury. She must have some private source. I breathe it in, thinking I should appreciate it. It's the scent of prepubescent girls, of the gifts young children used to give their mothers for Mother's Day. The smell of white cotton socks and white cotton petticoats, of dusting powder, of the innocence of female flesh not yet given over to hairiness and blood. It makes me feel slightly ill, as if I'm in a closed car on a hot, muggy day, with an older woman wearing too much face powder. This is what the sitting room is like, despite its elegance. I would like to steal something from this room. I would like to take some small thing. The scrolled ashtray? The little silver pillbox from the mantel, perhaps? Or a dried flower? Hide it in the folds of my dress or in my zippered sleeve. Keep it there until this evening is over. Secret it in my room, under the bed, or in a shoe, or in a slit in the hard petite point faith cushion. Every once in a while I would take it out and look at it. It would make me feel that I have power. But such a feeling would be an illusion and too risky. My hands stay where they are, folded in my lap, thighs together, heels tucked underneath me, pressing up against my body, head lowered. In my mouth, there's the taste of toothpaste, fake mint and plaster. I wait for the household to assemble. Household, that is what we are. The commander is the head of the household. The house is what he holds, to have and to hold till death do us part. The hold of a ship, hollow. Cora comes in first, then Rita, wiping her hands on her apron. They too have been summoned by the bell. They resent it. They have other things to do, the dishes, for instance. But they need to be here. They all need to be here. The ceremony demands it. We are all obliged to sit through this one way or another. Rita scowls at me before slipping in to stand behind me. It's my fault, this waste of her time. Not mine, but my body's, if there's a difference. Even the commander is subject to its whims. Nick walks in, nods to all three of us, looks around the room. He takes his place behind me, standing. He's so close that the tip of his boot is touching my foot. Is this on purpose? Whether it is or not, we are touching. Two shapes of leather. I feel my shoe soften. Blood flows into it, grows warm. It becomes a skin. I move my foot slightly away. Wish he'd hurry up, says Cora. Hurry up and wait, says Nick, and he laughs, moves his foot so it's touching mine again. No one can see beneath the folds of my outspread skirt. I shift. It's too warm in here. The smell of stale perfume makes me feel a little sick. I move my foot away. We hear Serena coming, down the stairs, along the hall, the muffled tap of her cane on the rug, thud of the good foot. She hobbles through the doorway, glances at us, counting but not seeing. She nods at Nick, but says nothing. She's in one of her best dresses, sky blue with embroidery in white along the edges of the veil, flowers and fretwork. Even at her age, she still feels the urge to wreath herself in flowers. No use for you, I think at her, my face unmoving. You can't use them anymore. You're withered. They're the genital organs of plants. I read that somewhere once. She makes her way to her chair and footstool turns. To her chair and footstool. Turns, lowers herself, lands ungracefully. She hoists her left foot onto the stool, fumbles in her sleeve pocket. I can hear the rustling, the click of her lighter. I smell the hot singe of the smoke. Breathe it in. Late as usual, she says. We don't answer. There's a clutter as she gropes on the lamp table. Then a click and the television set runs through its warm-up. A male choir with greenish yellow skin. The color needs adjusting. They're singing, "Come to the church in the wildwood. Come, come, come." Come sing the basses. Serena... Come, sing the basses. Serena clicks the channel changer. Waves colored zigzag, a garble of sounds. It's the Montreal satellite station being blocked. Then there's a preacher, earnest, with shining dark eyes, leaning towards us across a desk. These days, they look a lot like businessmen. Serena gives him a few seconds and then clicks onward. Several blank channels, then the news. This is what she's been looking for. She leans back, inhales deeply. I, on the contrary, lean forward, a child being allowed up late with the grown-ups. This is the one good thing about these evenings, the evenings of the ceremony. I'm allowed to watch the news. It seems to be an unspoken rule in this household. We always get here on time, he's always late, and Serena always lets us watch the news. Such as it is, who knows if any of it's true. It could be old clips, it could be faked, but I watch it anyway, hoping to be able to read beneath it. Any news now is better than none. First, the front lines. They are not lines, really. The war seems to be going on in many places at once. Wooded hills seen from above, the trees a sickly yellow. I wish she'd fix the color. The Appalachian highlands, says the voiceover, where the angels of the apocalypse, 4th Division, are smoking out a pocket of Baptist guerrillas with air support from the 21st Battalion of the Angels of Light. We are shown 2 helicopters, black ones with silver wings painted on the sides. Below them, a clump of trees explodes. So on this TV, they say that there's like one channel where there's zigzags, and it's the Montreal, Canada station that's been intentionally blocked out. And then there's this suspicion that these other channels that they are allowed to watch are like heavily propagandized. They're filtered for Gilead's consumption. So they don't want people knowing the wrong things. They don't want people getting the wrong information. And it's possible that the stuff is fake or old. They don't know. Okay, now a close shot of a prisoner with a stubbed and dirty face, flanked by 2 angels in their neat black uniforms. The prisoner accepts a cigarette from one of the angels, puts it awkwardly to his lips with his bound hands. He gives a lopsided little grin. The announcer is saying something, but I don't hear it. I look into this man's eyes, trying to decide what he's thinking. He knows the camera is on him. Is the grin a show of defiance? Or is it submission? Is he embarrassed at having been caught? They show us only the victories, never the defeats. who wants bad news. Possibly he's an actor. The anchor man comes now. His manner is kindly, fatherly. He gazes out at us from the screen, looking with his tan and his white hair and candid eyes, wise wrinkles around them, like everybody's ideal grandfather. What he's telling us, his level smile implies, is for our own good. Everything will be all right soon, I promise. There will be peace. You must trust. You must go to sleep like good children. He tells us what we long to believe. He's very convincing. I struggle against him. He's like an old movie star, I tell myself, with false teeth and a face job. At the same time, I sway towards him, like one hypnotized. If only it were true. If only I could believe. Now he's telling us that the underground espionage ring has been cracked by a team of eyes. Working with an inside informant, the ring has been smuggling precious national resources over the border into Canada. 5 members of the heretical sect of Quakers have been arrested, he says, smiling blandly, and more arrests are anticipated. 2 of the Quakers appear on screen, a man and a woman. They look terrified, but they're trying to preserve some dignity in front of the camera. The man has a large, dark mark on his forehead. The woman's veil has been torn off, and her hair falls in strands over her face. Both of them are about 50. So in just this news brief, they get information about Quakers and Baptists. Now, I don't think too highly of Baptists. Like, most of the Baptists I know are Southern Baptists, and they, my experience at going to those churches has always been hell and brimfire sermons, all about how sinful we all are and how we have to keep our children and ourselves away from everything in society. Like, everything in society is so sinful and awful. So there's that. I have been to some Baptist churches that are not quite that extreme, but still, like, that's the main freaking gist I've gotten anytime I've gone to them. Quakers, I've never been to a Quaker church, but I just think of them as like old style church from back when the Pilgrims and stuff were around. What are those? And like the Amish, stuff like that. That's what they remind me of. But the reality is, Gilead claims to be religious. They claim to be Christian. And they use all these fucking biblical passages and all these quotes to try to justify every single thing they're doing. And to try to really ritualize every single thing that they do, every policy that they follow. But so much of it is like really contrary to what's actually in the Bible, to any of the context that's in the Bible. And they are actively fighting against pretty much every other religious group out there. Catholics, Quakers, Protestants, Baptists, all the Christian ones, and I'm sure the Muslims and Jewish people and stuff like that are probably not treated well either. And we're going to get another thing in a while here. Anyway, let's move on. Now we can see a city again from the air. This used to be Detroit. Under the voice of the announcer, there's the thunk of artillery. From the skyline, columns of smoke ascend. Resettlement of the children of Ham is continuing on schedule, says the reassuring pink face back on the screen. 3,000 have arrived this week in National Homeland 1, with another 2,000 in transit. How are they transporting that many people at once? How are they transporting that many people at once? Trains? Buses? We are not shown any pictures of this. National Homeland 1 is in North Dakota. Lord knows what they're supposed to do once they get there. Farm is the theory. So if I remember correctly, and I'm sure that we'll get to it eventually, but so there are certain people when Gilead takes over that they just fucking kill indiscriminately. As soon as they think that they're sinful, that they have anything against their extremist ideas, whatever, freaking kill them. Or they enslave them, whatever, put them in their insane roles, force whatever on them. The people of Ham, from what I recall, are basically the African Americans. And they decided, we don't want you here in our precious Gilead. We're not going to kill you, but we're going to send you to your own special place. At least I think that's kind of what the gist was. So, fucking crazy. But anyway, most of the stuff that's on this news report, the Canada border, and now they're talking about Detroit, Michigan, so along the Great Lakes, just so that you have an idea of where they're talking about. And then North Dakota, a little bit further over there on the top of the country. Like the middle northern portion of the country, something like that. Anyway. Okay. Serena Joy has had enough of the news, and impatiently she clicks the button for a station change. Comes up with an aging bass baritone, his cheeks like emptied udders, whispering hope is what he's singing. Serena turns him off. We wait. The clock in the hall ticks. Serena lights another cigarette. I get into the car. It's a Saturday morning. It's a September. We still have a car. Other people have had to sell theirs. My name isn't Offred. I have another name, which nobody uses now because it's forbidden. I tell myself, it doesn't matter. Your name is like your telephone number, useful only to others. But what I tell myself is wrong. It does matter. I keep the knowledge of this name like something hidden, some treasure I'll come back to dig up one day. I think of this name as buried. This name has an aura around it, like an amulet, some charm that's survived from an unimaginable distant past. I lie in my single bed at night with my eyes closed, and the name floats there behind my eyes, not quite within reach, shining in the dark. It's a Saturday morning in September. I'm wearing my shining name. The little girl, who is now dead, sits in the back seat with her two best dolls, her stuffed rabbit, mangy with age and love. I know all the details. They are sentimental details, but I can't help that. I can't think about the rabbit too much, though. I can't start to cry here on this Chinese rug, breathing in the smoke that has been inside Serena's body. Not here, not now. I can do that later. She thought we were going on a picnic. And in fact, there is a picnic basket on the back seat beside her with real food in it. Hard-boiled eggs, thermos and all. We didn't want her to know what we were really doing or where we were really going. We didn't want her to tell by mistake, reveal anything if we were stopped. We didn't want to lay upon her the burden of our truth. I wore my hiking boots. She had on her sneakers. The laces of the sneakers had a design of hearts on them. Red, purple, pink, and yellow. It was warm for the time of year. The leaves were turning already, some of them. Luke drove. I sat beside him. The sun shone. The sky was blue. The houses, as we passed them, looked comforting and ordinary. Each house as it was left behind, vanishing into past time, crumbling in an instant as if it had never been, because I would never see it again, or so I thought. We have almost nothing with us. We don't want to look as if we're going anywhere far or permanent. We have the forged passports, guaranteed, worth the price. We couldn't pay in money, of course, or put it in a compu account. We used other things, some jewelry that was my grandmother's, a stamp collection Luke inherited from his uncle. Such things can be exchanged for money in other countries. When we get to the border, we'll pretend we're just going over on a day trip. The fake visas are for a day. Before that, I'll give her a sleeping pill, so she'll be asleep when we cross. That way, she won't betray us. You can't expect a child to lie convincingly. And I don't want her to feel frightened, to feel the fear that is now tightening my muscles, tensing my spine, pulling me so taut that I'm certain I would break if touched. Every stoplight is an ordeal. We'll spend the night at a motel, or better, sleeping in the car on a side road, so there will be no suspicious questions. We'll cross in the morning, drive over the bridge, easily, just like driving to the supermarket. We turn onto the freeway heading north, flowing with not much traffic. Since the war started, gas is expensive and in short supply. Outside the city, we pass the first checkpoint. All they want is a look at the license. Luke does it well. The license matches the passport. We thought of that. Back on the road, he squeezes my hand and glances over at me. You're white as a sheet, he says. That is how I feel. White, flat, thin. I feel transparent. Surely they will be able to see through me. Worse, how will I be able to hold on to Luke, to her, when I'm so flat, so white? I feel as if there's not much left of me. They will slip through my arms as if I'm made of smoke. As if I'm a mirage, fading before their eyes. Don't think that way, Moira would say. Think that way and you'll make it happen. Cheer up, says Luke. He's driving a little too fast now. The adrenaline's gone to his head. Now he's singing. Oh, what a beautiful morning, he sings. And his singing worries me. We've been warned not to look too happy. So, just like, so many feelings. God. Yeah, like I said, these two chapters are a bit heavy. And tearjerkers for me. All right, so that is all of that. Let's go back to there. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Tough. If you have not watched the show, I really recommend at least watch the first season. It very well follows a lot of the stuff in here. There are things that use a different juxtaposition or whatever, but mostly the story is fairly well the same. There's little bits and pieces that are different. But the story, the roots of the story remain the same. And I think the show does a very good job of depicting these things that they're going through, that they have been through, and how freaking horrible it is, how horrific it is. All right, but I think that's enough for one day. That is all I got for you. I will see you on Tuesday if you come back for another Margaret Atwood Handmaid's Tale reading. We'll start with chapter 15, and I haven't decided how far we'll go. I'll figure that out a little later. But I will put a little post before I start my live streams, so that if you're looking out for it and you check my posts, that will give you a little idea of exactly when I plan to start the live stream. But should be Tuesday. Excuse me. Should be Tuesday, probably around noon. And after that, later on that Tuesday around 2:30, 3 o'clock, I'll do a Night of the Seven Kingdoms live stream after watch for episode 3. Other stuff going on. I have Tokyo Ghoul episodes I'm still doing, and Bridgerton just started. So I got that first episode up. I will post one episode a week, just like I do with my other content. One episode a week. So if you want to watch Bridgerton reactions, I'm doing Bridgerton reactions. And that is all I got for you for now. I'll see you when I see you.